Hi guys, I'm Stefan, and in this video I'm going to teach you how to play Bach's Little Prelude in E major. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so, and if you like what you see, give this video a thumbs up. This video is part of my beginner piano course for solo learners level 4 lesson book. If you'd like to join the course and access all the lessons and videos, links will be below. I also offer online piano lessons. If you're looking for one, there's going to be information below too. So the title is Little Prelude in E major, but don't be deceived by the title. It is definitely the hardest piece in the level 4 lesson book. And I was really hesitating whether I should put this piece into the book or not, but the notes are fairly simple. It's the speed that's going to make it quite difficult to play. However, Bach did not include a tempo mark for this piece, so technically we can play it slower and faster. It's still very, very beneficial for the hands and also for the brain. It's a two-part prelude where we have two melodies, one in the right hand, one in the left hand, and it's in the key of E major, which obviously fits in with the chapter about E major. This piece has very different challenges to the pieces learned before in the previous lessons, where we had very big chords and we had to voice melodies over chords and we had very interesting rhythms. Here the rhythm is extremely simple. We only have eighth notes and 16th notes, and basically every eighth note is going to be twice as long as a 16th note, so it's very easy to read the rhythm. It's basically 2-to-1 ratio, and you can visually see where the notes come together. The main thing about the rhythm is to keep it even, so use a metronome right from the beginning at a very slow speed once you're comfortable with the notes, to make sure you're not slowing down, you're not hesitating between the bars, to keep that nice evenness from beginning to end. The notes again look fairly simple. When you look at the score, you would say, why is this so difficult? But the challenge about the notes is the fingering, navigating those intervals and leaps in the melody, and being very, very consistent with the finger number. Once you start increasing the speed with this prelude, you'll notice that even if you mess up one finger number, you're going to slip off and the whole piece falls apart. So let's have a deeper look. So as I said, we are in the key of E major, so we have 4 sharps, F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp. Make sure you play a couple of E major scales before, just to really tune into the key of E major. And we are in 4/4, so common time, 4 quarter note beats in every bar. Now I'm going to play hands separately once and then put it together. But without talking too much about the building elements, I want to point out that if we have a look at the first 2 bars, we can see that there are some building elements or motifs which come back later on higher or lower. And this is extremely common in Bach's music, especially in the inventions and the fugues, where you have one idea that's being used in many different forms later on, and it's a building block in the piece. So instead of having a melody with chords, we have little motifs that come back. And you need to be consistent when you decide how you want to play these motifs. So of course it's a Baroque era sheet music, so it doesn't have any dynamics and it doesn't have any articulation. So all of these decisions are up to you. I'm going to give you some tips, but that's by no means the only way to do it. It's just my own preference for interpreting the piece. So the one thing I want to talk most about is the articulation. So if we have a look at the right hand, this is how it starts. So I think that this is kind of one motif. And then in bar 3 we have something else. So which of these two do you feel like should go smoothly and which one should be slightly detached? To my ears, I feel like these eighth notes in the beginning, they seem very upbeat and very happy, so I would do them detached, almost staccato. And then here is a little bit of a difference in the pattern. We have some 16th notes, so I feel like it wants to connect through. Bum, ba-da-dum, bum, 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 bum. So here we have this staccato legato, and then in bar 3 what we can see is that the left hand is taking over the exact same melody as what the right hand had in bars 1 and 2, but it's transposed. Now it's going to start on F sharp, and the first note is the ending of the previous pattern. So it comes back here. And then the second pattern, as you can see, is the one with the 16th note, which in the beginning it starts in the left hand. And that to me wants to be legato because it's very runny notes. And in bars 3 and 4, the right hand takes on this little pattern. So this is basically how I would decide on articulation, by looking at the two building blocks in this first section and thinking about which one would sound better detached and why. So now that I talked about the articulation, how I would approach the articulation, let's play through the entire first section, the right hand. So, 1. Now comes the 16th note. And what did we have here? We had some rotation. So make sure you do a little bit of rocking motion to get that nice and even and to not build up tension. Going on from bar 5, we have an A sharp, so the pattern comes back. And the pattern comes back again. And that's the end of the first section. So you can see the ending was a little bit different. And if you want to add some ornamentation, you could add it here. So on this C sharp, a little upper mordant or trill. It's just a nice place to add it as a cadential little ornament there. And that was the right hand. Left hand is going to start in this octave. So we had again this little rocking motion or rotation happening here. Then the pattern, the happy pattern, comes back, the 8th note. And rotation. And happy pattern. Rotation. And finishing on the B, which is the dominant. So we finished on a B major chord, which is the dominant of E major. Now let's put this together. So there's another thing you need to think about when it comes to dynamics, which is not just the dynamics of the piece, the way you get loud, the way you get softer, but also the balance between the two hands. Which pattern should be more important? To my ears, most of the time, the 8th note pattern is going to stand out more because the notes are longer, so it's easier to follow it. And for that reason, I'm going to not just detach them, but also make them a little bit louder than the 16th note pattern in the other hand, whichever hand it is in. And that's the balance I'm going to stick with until the end of the piece. So let's put it together. And what happens in bar 3, I'm going to emphasize the left hand here. Now we go back to bar 5, where the right hand gets emphasized again. And back to our pattern, and be careful with the thumb crossings. A little trill, and that's the end of the first section. Now, second section, exact same idea. and we're going to add a little bit more dynamics there. Again, decide which sections you want to play softer. We explore slightly different harmonies here, so something changes, and for that reason I'm choosing to go a little bit softer, and then I'm going to do my crescendo. So let's go right hand first. And we feel this note is so dominant, it wants to stand out. So what happened here again, as you notice, is the same pattern repeating 4 times. First from the E, then from the C sharp, then from the B, and then from the A. It's really important when you play these Bach pieces to be aware of what's going on, which motif is being repeated, what's being developed into something else, what are the building blocks in this specific section. You can use a highlighter and different colors to show that this is the pattern A or motif A, and it comes back here and here and here, and I'm going to use blue for all of those. And for the second motif, I'm going to use red, and again, highlight all of those sections where that comes back, so I can visually see where I want to apply the same articulation and the same dynamics. And let's finish it from bar 19. So here we have a little turn, so it's a D sharp. We're going to go upper neighbor, D sharp, lower neighbor, back to D sharp, and then holding this E, we have 2 voices here in the right hand to finish off. So be careful, hold on to the E, C sharp, A, and left hand as well, 1, and that's the end. Let's put it together as well, a little bit slower so you can follow it more with your eyes. Now being very careful here. Peak point here. And be careful here with the E sharp. B. And the sequence. Being very careful with the fingering here. And the final ending. C, the little turn. And finishing on a beautiful E major arpeggio. So there are many ways to interpret this beautiful prelude. And again, I just want to really stress that it's the hardest piece in the book. And if you found the previous pieces quite challenging, then do not try it maybe just yet, maybe after you finish the level 4 book. But I did want to include one very challenging piece just for those of you who feel like you need a challenge, and also to include something from the Baroque era. Another thing you can do if you find it too difficult is to play it at a much slower speed than the average speed. The average speed is at around 80 to 110 beats per minute, looking at the most famous pianists around the world who performed it. So as you can see, there is no set tempo. Even the best of the best are going to choose quite different speeds to match their own interpretation. So there's nothing wrong with playing it slower, as long as you still keep a slightly upbeat feel to the piece, because that's what it wants to be.